All right, hello everybody. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am absolutely beside myself with excitement today. I am chatting with legendary blues rockers from, of course, the amazing band Savoy Brown. I am chatting with Pat DeSalvo as well as Garnet Grimm, respectfully the bassist and the drummer. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us, Victor.
And of course, the big announcement right now is in I believe in 6 short days, the release of the final Savoy Brown album will be coming out, Blues All Around, which is very, very exciting news, of course. That's believe if I got the dates right, I believe it gets released officially worldwide on February 17th. Is that correct?
That's
Yep.
correct.
Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. So as I mentioned, this is the final album. Of course, sadly, Kim Simmonds, founding member, passed away in December from cancer. Definitely has left a hole in the world. One of the great blues, English blues players, of course, with a long history of amazing albums. And this is, of course, the last recordings that he did with you guys. So can you tell me a little bit about the album, the culmination of this, and kind of how this came about?
Yeah.
You can go, Garnet. Go first.
So yeah, Kim had sent. We had been talking about it for some time, and Kim had sent us, Pat and I, demos, and the same demos went to the studio that we were going to record in, and we approached this quite a bit different than we had in any other recording that Pat and I have been involved with Kim, because we usually would record live. That was that's kind of how Kim liked to do it. We were a blues rock band, and so this one though, Kim was not feeling 100%. So he sent us demos. We worked them out. Pat and I went into the studio together, and we laid down our tracks over these demos and kind of built the record from the ground up versus,
Oh, wow.
just playing live. So, um, yeah. So I don't know, Pat. I think Kim came in maybe on day number 2 for us.
Yeah,
And
because he was actually at the hospital the first day.
yeah, and
Where
he
the
came in and started to add things. We added vocal parts and harmonica, some slide, piano, organ. He added quite a bit to it. So
Interesting.
his hands weren't working due to neuropathy at this point because of the chemo.
yeah,
So so it's
but yeah, so but he did play well. He had on these demos, he had recorded himself playing even some solos, I think. So,
Nice.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
yeah,
So,
it was
we built the album actually. We built each song kind of around, from the ground up, like I said, and it was kind of a cool way to approach the album. But I know I had some questions in my mind, you know, is this going to work for us? Because we've never done that. So, but
Right.
it worked beautifully. So in the end,
Yeah, I would say so.
see we don't live near each other anymore. So um we listened to the stuff, and then little backstories. Me and Garnet have been playing together over 20-25 years. Well, actually longer than that.
Wow.
And we've been working with Kim since I think it was 2009. I think we did the first acoustic record with him. So we didn't rehearse at all, and we just went into the studio and we talked about stuff, and we just started playing.
Oh, wow.
And most tracks were done 1, 2. There's one track that took 3 takes only because the engineer forgot to put the vocal in.
Oh,
So we had not rehearsed, but we actually went in, and because we've been playing together so long and we had worked together like we did, and we had been playing so much that it just came together. It was very organic, I guess you would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
It
I just
clicked pretty
listened to
well.
it the other day, Garnet, and there's nothing I would change. It's just it captured the moment, and I think that's what you should do with almost any record.
Yeah.
Re-recording things over and over again. I mean, once you're kind of established act, it's like, I get the perfection thing, but I think sometimes it becomes sterile.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can overthink all this too much.
Yeah, and I admitted I received an advanced copy of it, and I think you nailed nailed it on the head there with it's a very organic feeling record, and I would not have known that you did not record it all together. It feels like any of the great Savoy Brown records over the last however many years. It feels very organic. It feels like a live band playing. It's richly textured. It's just it's I think definitely a great tribute to the legacy of Kim and you too as well, with the band. I think it's a very fitting final album, for sure. It's
Thank you.
incredible. Now, was he still alive? Was he able to hear the final, or were you guys still working?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the last texts I got from him, he was in the hospital, and it was what signal should be released first and what the running order should be. And he was, here he is. He was slipping in and out of things, and he was still working on. And he's such a tenacious. He would just work on something like this, like he did every record, and he just wanted to be perfect.
Yeah.
But when I say that, we would go in and just record all the time. I mean, sometimes we would really do our homework. And we would go in and cut all the tracks within a day, almost all the time. I mean, I think every record we've done. I think I've done 16 records with Kim.
Wow.
That's because I did some other projects with him. But with me and Garnet, it's about 12 Savoy, I think, total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I admire him for that, though. He really he had a vision. And even on this record, you can tell by the opening track and the closing track, and the way the tracks went, he was telling a story of just a blues story, So it was kind of fitting, yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool. That's and as you mentioned, I mean, he was such a prolific writer and player. I mean, I've read interviews with him in the past where he stated that he practiced every single day and would write new songs almost daily. Like he would wake up and start writing stuff.
6 or 7 in the morning, he'd be in the studio almost every day.
That's wild.
Yeah, he really did write a lot, and I think, sometimes I forgot exactly the way he said it, but he did say that he might, something like he said, I'll write 5 songs, but I'll keep one, and so it was something that it just poured out of him. So I mean, he was a great writer, just very creative, always working. He was always working, trying to play guitar better, write better, and he was very good about, at least with Pat and I mean, he had a way of bringing you into the creative process. I mean, he involved us, was always asking about our input and what our thoughts were on the things he was working on. So I felt, honored that he, somebody that's of his stature would even want my opinion, but he did, he was very good about it. So
nice.
Yeah, he definitely got the most. We had a unique relationship too, because as you know, this was the longest running version of the band.
Yeah.
And we were the longest members in the band. And there was the reason was, and it was our work ethic. Me and Garnet both, believe it or not, hold down full-time jobs. And we've been lucky where we can tour like we did and do what we did. but it was our work ethic, and the key thing once again is the respect that grew with the three of us. And also, me and Garnet came into the band differently than most people. Where I knew Kim for, I think, 35 years at that, 35 years. So we would talk about things all the time, and we would hang out once in a while. And there was a sort of a friendship there, and there was an understanding. I think that's how come we did what we did as a group.
Nice.
I think that's why it worked, I believe. And we owe a lot to Debbie, too. She was really instrumental in helping us do what we do. She did all our advanced work, and she really she was like the fourth Beatle for us.
Nice. How did you both I mean, you had mentioned that you already knew Kim, but how did you both, and you both came into the band at the same time, 2009 ish. How did you both come into the band? How did that how did that happen?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so well, what happened was, I just want to back up a little bit. I think it was around 1999 that we did the first recording with, remember Blues Like Midnight?
Yeah.
And it was around 99, and we went out to Kim's home studio, and Pat was on bass that day. I did not know he was going to be there. I was just invited to go to this session. I knew it was going to be with Kim, and I knew it was going to be maybe part of a solo project, nothing to do with Savoy Brown. And I said, yeah, of course, I'd love to do it. So I went out there, and Pat was there, and it ended up being Blues Like Midnight that later came out for Kim as a solo CD.
Yeah, it was an acoustic record. I played upright, and Garnet played percussion and drums.
Oh, okay.
But I think we evolved as somewhat friends because do you remember we played a few gigs together in that trio, just
right,
regionally, and they were just they were just side project gigs for Kim. It had nothing to do with Savoy Brown, but it was kind of fun. We played his acoustic songs. We played some of the Savoy Brown songs, but we organized it for the instrumentation that we had. It wasn't supposed to be like the big stage. So
right.
How it came about, I think, was Kim's, the bass player for Savoy Brown, was having health issues. Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, he had a quadruple bypass.
Oh wow.
And so Pat was going to fill in and do some gigs, and I learned a lot of the material, so I was going to help Pat rehearse, and we were all going to get together and get Pat up to speed for the rehearsals for the gigs. So I mean, we were sort of friends, we were hanging out and playing a little bit, and so it was very comfortable. So when Kim started to think about making some permanent changes, it kind of felt like it fit. It was an easy kind of fit. And Pat was pretty instrumental, though, with me trying to get me to play, on the drums. So the three of us, it was a good, Kim agreed that it was a good fit, and that was around 2009, and that took us all the way to now. So to December when he passed,
Wow.
So actually, it was 99 we recorded, right?
First 99,
not 2009. Yeah. And the band he had a great bass player and drummer, but Kim wanted, when I went on the road with him, he really wanted to rehearse. And it was hard to rehearse when you got guys in different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And we lived next to each other. So that's how that really, really happened. He really wanted to make another push in his career and start working on material and writing, and not just playing and putting on a record out occasionally.
Yeah, we were living somewhat close to each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, and definitely would make things a lot easier, I would imagine.
Yeah. Like I said, the band, he's always had pretty strong bands, but it was a matter of logistics. Also, with what happened, and Jerry Jerry at that point, I don't think wanted to go on the road anymore anyway. I think he wanted to, deal with deal with his, getting his life together and staying healthy.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned, kind of circling back, it's funny you mentioned, that you both have been in the band longer than any other band members, from the previous, incarnations of the band. It's interesting because, I've read things where people have, dubbed you guys the new guys, and it's like, well, they've been in the band for like 20 years. And, yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, like the new guys, like,
yeah.
and as you said, I mean, you guys played in the band longer than, I mean, some of those classic lineups were only around for a couple of years, really. I mean,
right. Yeah.
You look at like, the guys that went off and formed, Foghat. It was a short-lived band, really. They weren't together all that long. It's funny, and it's amazing to think about, the longevity of the band too. It's really incredible to think that 2023 is, well, 2022, I guess, was 57 years. From when Kim started the band in 65, when he was 17 years old, and put out his first album when he was 19 years old. Like that's incredible. I mean, there are 40 plus albums, I believe, over that period of time, and 60 band members. Yeah, it's really incredible, that kind of longevity. And I'm curious what you think is kind of what is the staying power of Savoy Brown? What is the magic there? What do you think what's the reason why the band has been around for so long?
Oh, Kim, he's the only guy that was consistently in the band. It was his project. He put it together, and he had visions and he had ideas on how he wanted to do things. And sometimes, he's had a lot of great players in the band, obviously, very, very good players. But sometimes it's just, once again, it's a chemistry, and it's the hang you guys can have with each other. And like me and Garnet, really, there was very little drama. We just worked together. We took it seriously. It's a job, and you got to try to do your best all the time. And you got to, people are coming out and they're spending good money and they've worked hard to come see a show. You want to give them a good show. You want to be up there where you can't function correctly or you don't give a damn. You're not just churning it out. And that was never the case with the band. There was, we were there every night doing the best we could do. So
I want to add that I think both of us, we were obviously well aware of Kim's history prior to joining the band, and we didn't take it for granted. I mean, we realized that we were playing the gigs we were playing because of Kim's hard work over the last, at that point, 40 years or whatever it was, 30 years. And I mean, he already had a long history. So, we didn't take that for granted. We understood that, that we just had a high standard to uphold. So that's really where my head was at. We had to approach the older stuff with respect. But we also got a chance to play on a lot of new stuff. I mean, we recorded, I think, 11 or 12 albums together.
Yeah, and DVDs and stuff like that. And another thing that I forgot all about, I remember because I was doing the acoustic thing with him, he asked me to go, he called me up to go on the road. And I said, I can't do it. And he goes, why? And I go, I don't know the material well enough. And he goes, don't worry. He goes, we'll work on it. I said, no. I said, Kim, I don't want to go on a gig and not do a good job. And then he goes, well, okay. And he thought I wanted more money. I remember. He goes, well, I'll give you more. And I go, no, that's not what it's about. It's about, I don't think I can do a good job. And I don't want to go out and just, not perform at a certain level. So he did get another bass player, but ironically, the guy had other commitments, and he called me up and he goes, can you do these dates? And I went to my work, and I said, geez, Kim wants me to go on the road for like 3 or 4 weeks. And they knew Kim, because they had taken him to a SU basketball game one time, and they were big fans, and they said, oh yeah, you got to do this.
Nice. So
they let me go do it, and I talked to my family, and I said, I'm gonna go on the road for, I don't know, it was like almost 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't be talking right now. If that guy had didn't have some other commitments,
Right.
probably
Wow.
wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, that's cool.
God knows where our lives would have been, you know?
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. Well, I think, one thing too, I mean, you three as, a power trio, a live power trio. And for those watching, definitely there's some really incredible live footage of Savoy Brown out there, in recent years.
thank you.
I just watched one the other day that was, somebody had recorded, looked like professionally done. It was on YouTube. It was, I think you guys are playing in Pennsylvania somewhere. And it's incredible just to hear and see how well you play off of each other. I mean, it seems you're just locked in. It's cool to see musicians enjoying themselves, but also reading the other musicians so well. You know exactly where the song's going, what's going to happen. And even with solos, and just, I mean, it's really a joy to watch. And
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to have big ears in a trio. There's no hiding. Everybody,
yeah,
everybody's got to play. So there's no you can't fall out.
right, yeah.
We were all listening very closely to each other, and
Yes.
some of that stuff did develop into some great jams.
Oh yeah.
The one we used to do on Street Corner Talking was a good one, and
Louisiana Blues. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really do. And you hit on a key thing, Victor. You really got to listen to what's going on around here. I don't get why, like, I'm not that great of a bass player, but I listen, and you put your parts. And once again, it's chemistry. We listened to so much different music, and we played so many different gigs, me and Garnet. We just bring all these little attributes in and all these ideas in, and you make it work. But it takes time. We really worked on developing our sound, and when it came time, okay, it's like a jazz thing. Okay, it's play now. We're off the head of the song, and it really developed pretty quickly. And that's key that you caught that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes you weren't sure where it was going, so it was kind of fun to be on stage at that point.
Yeah.
'Cause Kim would, take you on a bit of a journey with some of those solos.
Yeah.
He would start out. I'm thinking of Street Corner Talk, and he would often start up that solo section out kind of quiet, and then it would build up and be very ruckus and at the end, and depending on how he was feeling, I mean, it could go on for minutes.
Right. Yeah.
And so it
Well,
was
and
cool.
the show that I was watching online, what I thought was really cool was, he was, and it might have been that song, but I remember, he was doing a solo, and it was, obviously very, he was in, a lot of improvisation, little stuff going on, and what I really loved about it, Pat, was you like looked over at him at one point because he did some lick, and you cracked this huge smile, and because I think you're like, kind of this, wow, that's really cool. Like, I don't think you had heard him do something like that before. Maybe, I don't know. I'm speculating, of course, but that was my impression as an audience, watching this. Like, it seemed like you were kind of blown away by what he was doing on, right there next to him, going, whoa, what did you just do? And that's gotta be, it's such a great gift, I would think, to be able to be in that, in that state, in that presence, right, at that point.
Yeah. Like I said, we always had the best seat in the house.
Yeah,
it was. Go ahead.
I can tell you a story that it just reminded me when you were talking about that. We were playing in Chicago, I think, one night, and after the show, there was about 3 or 4 guys standing around at the stage looking at Kim's setup, and one of the guy, I was tearing down some equipment, and the guy says to me, one of the guys says he was looking for pedals. I said, there is no pedals.
Wow.
I said that was all him. So the 4 of them seemed to be amazed, So
yeah, that's incredible.
That was great. Yeah,
That's
it is
really
incredible. It is incredible.
That's really cool. That's cool. So I have a question for both of you, and I wanted to kind of go back in the way back machine. I was really curious for you both personally, where kind of how you started in music. Where did you start? Did you come from musical families? Kind of what was the catalyst for you to become a professional musician?
Garnet?
For me, I always have to say it's my dad. I have to give him credit for that because he was also a drummer, and in the area that we lived, that I grew up in, and there was always music in the house. And fortunately for me, there was always a drum set to bang on. So to me, it was just a natural movement to that, to the drums. So, and I fooled around with other musical instruments growing up, and but I really always wanted to be a drummer. So that was my earliest. That was my. In fact, it's pretty. It's I can't remember a time when there wasn't drums in the house. I never remember it. So that's great. So for me.
That's cool. Apart from your father's influence, who were your inspirations as far as drummers?
Yeah. So someday I'm going to come up with a really clever answer for this because everyone always says, "Who's your favorite drummer?" And I'm like, "Oh man, that's a tough one. I can never say who is my favorite." But you know, I tried to draw from many characters, and I can tell you one thing that I try to do is if I heard something over the years that really caught my attention, whether it was the way somebody played or a sound, for example. I tried to fool around how did they get that tuning? How did they do that? And one of my examples that I tell people is, so John Bonham, of course, he has this great foot, and his bass drum, it always sounds like a cannon, and
Right.
and I'm always thinking, and he's got all these really, uh, you know, different beats that he would do. And So I was thinking I would always really try to focus on how is he doing that? You know what I mean? So I would try to break it apart, and I'd pound on a pillow and kick on the floor, and just sometimes I would put a foot pedal up against the wall and try to what is he doing? I'd really, and it was always, of course it was before YouTube, and you couldn't see anything, so it was all what you were listening to. So I always drew from many influences, even old. I love some of the older guys from the 40s and 50s. I bring up Louis Bellson sometimes. He's just got great swing grooves, and he played with everybody. Duke Ellington back in the day, and
Oh wow.
um, he was one of the pioneers of the double bass drumming. This guy Louis Bellson, and he was just a lot of dexterity, and he had great grooves, and his solos were off the charts. So he was someone I always tried to look at as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
Very cool. How about you, Pat? What was your upbringing in terms of music?
Well, nobody really musical, but I did have a cousin, Buzz Kua, that taught guitar, and I had a cousin and his son, Rick Kua, who eventually went with the Outlaws,
Oh,
and was the bass player for them. And I got ADD or ABC, whatever it is. So when I was younger, I was a handful. I still am. And I think my parents thought maybe if he takes lessons, he'll calm down. But this is like I'm 12 or 13. I remember my poor uncle, like I think he lost all his hair, or cousin, I should say. I mean, I drove him crazy in the lessons. I just couldn't focus. I had a hard time focusing. That poor guy, what he went through. But yeah, I started playing, and then it was like sort of um, uh, a good thing for me to do because it did help me channel, and it gave me some direction. And I decided, when I was young, I was going to be a musician. I started playing in bars when I was like 15.
Oh
I was
wow.
in high school. Yeah, I was in high school playing 5 nights a week. I
Wow.
barely made it out of high school. Um, Not the sharpest tool, but I wound up going to college, and I started getting into jazz, and I got to meet Stanley Clark one time,
Oh cool.
and he turned me on to the Philly Music Academy, and I got a scholarship, and I went to school down there. I had gone to University of Buffalo and studied there, but I wanted to get into a big city and start, growing. So that's basically, I thought, oh, I'm going to be a musician. Back in the late '60s, early '70s, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's like, and I was serious. I was making really good money. I was in high school and I had money. I would always buy different basses and stuff, and then I went to college, and then I went on the road. I remember I left my last senior year of college and went on the road with a band, and I wound up in Puerto Rico living for a while.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. I got stories to tell, but I can't really tell you.
Gotcha.
I
That's
got
impressive.
asked to leave the island. I'm 21 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was like, I'm telling you, I'm a friggin' handful sometimes. I don't know.
Wow.
I've calmed down quite a bit though.
Nice, nice. Who were some of your influences as far as bassists over the years?
Well, I gotta be honest with you, Tim Bogart, um, Geezer from Black Sabbath, you know. Then I got into Duck Dunn and Jameson, for the Motown thing. Then I started really listening to jazz, and I came across like Charles Mingus and Ron Carter
Oh yeah.
and Slam Stewart and guys like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was like, wow, there's just so much there. And once again, I'm not a phenomenal musician by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm functional, and that's what I would always try to be. And I learned sometimes that a space can be deafening.
Mm.
Having some silence and to choose your notes as best as you can.
Yeah.
So by listening to all those guys, I did it. Tim Bogart, though, he was like all over on the bass, but he was like, I just thought he was just amazing in Cactus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah,
Monster
I mean,
bass player.
yeah, he was. There's so many good musicians out there. It's kind of sad a lot of them don't get their due,
Yeah.
or they do get to a certain level and it collapses on them, and then they're at Home Depot in aisle 8 doing plumbing.
Yeah.
It's sad. I joke about it, but I know some guys from our hometown that are just phenomenal musicians, and you go like, why didn't they do anything?
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of it's luck. Being in the right place at the right time, and the other thing is being a good hang with people, and trying to be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Can you work with people? That's a big thing,
yeah,
Right.
It's a
Right.
big one.
it's a team, man. You got to be a team.
Yeah.
Let's say anything you do in life. The stronger your team is, the further you will go.
Right. Yeah. That's good philosophy there, right there. That definitely, in any, like you said, any workplace environment, whether it's music or, Home Depot or wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've come up with a lot of good cliches, like every cloud has a silver lining. I came up with that one. A lot of people don't know that. No matter where you go, there you are. Another one of mine. I wish people keep ripping me off, but taking all my ideas.
Nice. So I'm really curious, and maybe you don't have an answer for this, but right now, what is the future for you two? What do you have musical plans at this point? What are you going to do now?
Well, we're already doing it.
Oh, great.
Yeah. You want to tell it, or do you want me to tell it?
Go ahead, Pat.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can...
So we played a festival in Newton, Iowa, and there was this guy, Sean Chambers, that played before us. I think he was one of the acts before. He was before us.
Yeah, he was before us.
And the back line needed some improvement, and his drummer had let us use his drums because we had flown in. We were somewhere in California at the time. We flew in and to do the show, and they became friends of ours, sort of, the band. And then when I came down to Florida, Sean lives down here, and that's where I am now. And Sean's on the same label we're on, and he goes to me and Garnet. He knew Kim was sick, and he goes, "I'm looking for. I want to see if you guys want to go to Europe with me. I got a tour coming up." So me and Garnet, we talked to Kim, and Kim was like, wanted us to do it at this point because he knew he couldn't tour. So we went on the road. We did a pretty successful tour in Europe. I was very happy with it.
Yeah.
But while we were over there, we would talk to Kim every couple days, but we text almost every day. We had WhatsApp, so get on Wi-Fi, and we talked. And we just wanted to know what was going on, and he was really supportive of what we were doing, which was really great. So now we're playing with Sean, and we're hopefully going to do an album this year.
Oh, great!
And so that we'll see what happens. But we're doing some dates. Garnet's actually coming down in March. We're going to do a few shows, and so that's what we're doing at this point.
I've been traveling down to. Pat's been gracious to let me stay with him. I've been traveling down with him, I don't know, every other month or so, and we've been doing gigs and with Sean. He's a sweetheart. Check him out if you're not familiar.
Yeah.
And great guitar player, good songwriter. And but yeah, it was kind of a nice turn the page moment, I would call it. We met Sean. He sort of he was hanging out because he wanted to meet Kim, I think, as well.
Yeah.
When we were playing in Newton, Iowa. And I was having equipment difficulties, and Sean's drummer helped me out tremendously that day. And but like Pat said, when we were on the road with Sean, we would call Kim, I don't know, every other day, at least twice a week, I think. And
yeah, usually.
And the four of us would all get around the phone and chat, and it was kind of cool. Kim was very supportive, and always full of advice. So it was cool.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad. The band had developed, and also we started developing and getting good. We had a real good agency in the States, Paradise. And we had a guy, people in Europe that were really working for us, Peter Noble being one of them. And we started really drawing really well in Europe, where we were selling out really good event like the 100 Club. Okay. And it was going great, and COVID hit. We had just played the UK that January, and we did some shows in Texas. And then we did the record, and then COVID hit, and everything's changed, Yeah. It's a completely different world when you think about it. It really hurt the music industry tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of clubs have closed, and it's just, a lot of people, there's people still that, don't want to come out. You can't blame them,
we're hoping that turns around, but
yeah.
It seems like things are starting to pick up, and
yeah, they are. No, they are. But a lot of people, they found other avenues to entertain themselves too,
Right.
There's that thing called Netflix.
Yeah.
There's that thing. I love Homer Simpson's quote: "The internet, that thing's still around." So there's so many places to find music and to find entertainment now. It's it's really incredible what's going on out there. Yeah. I can't agree with it all personally.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I still miss vinyl. I miss a record where you can hold it and look at it, think about it, and look at the great artwork, and then I can actually read the liner notes without getting a magnifying glass out.
Exactly.
I can't ever read the liner notes. It's like, who did anything on this?
I have a fairly large vinyl collection. In fact, I just bought a record today before the interview.
Really? What'd you get?
I'm a metalhead, so I love the blues, and I listen to a lot of stuff. But I grew up listening to blues and 60s rock, and but I'm also a metalhead. So I bought the Sodom album, kind of a compilation album of their 40-year anniversary album. So just a collection of songs. But yeah, I grabbed that on vinyl. So and I'd like to get Blues All Around on vinyl. Is it being released on vinyl? Do you know?
We're hoping so. Yeah.
We're hoping.
We'll see what the market says. To be honest with you, it's the last last 6 albums, they all came out. 5 of them came out on vinyl.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So City Night is a really good. I really like that record personally. Did you ever listen to that record? You should give it a
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really
It's
good
got a good edge to it. Yeah, it was a lot of those songs. Well, not a lot, but a couple of those songs we learned in the studio. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, it was like Walking on Hot Stones. I mean, I listened to a demo on the way down to Jersey with Kim.
Oh,
Because
wow.
what do you think of this? I go, I think that's great. Let's do it.
Cool.
You know, I always like the edgier stuff, edgier stuff that he came up with. But he would come up with this edgy stuff. Then he would come up with like a song like "Stand in the Doorway," you know,
Hmm.
or "Ain't Got Nobody." I mean, was interesting how he came up with stuff. I think a lot of metal bands really copied, especially his earlier artwork, like Hellbound Train and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah, definitely.
You
Yeah.
know,
Looking
I mean,
in.
that was pretty groundbreaking, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
What they
Yeah,
were
so
doing back
looking
then,
Yeah.
in, Jack
yeah,
the
looking in,
Yeah, that looks like a metal album.
Yeah, it
yeah,
does. Yeah.
Yeah, that
and
was
Street
like
Corner Talking. That's like
71.
I thought the guy that did Fritz the Cat did that album cover, and now it's some guy from England, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, his album covers were he always said, and even Witchy Feeling was kind of a really cool album cover, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, Kim always had, yeah, he always has a cool eye for the art. I mean, I'm sure, you know, or at least knowing, you know, what he wanted on that album cover and how it should look, you know, as far, you know, and conveying that to an artist. And that's a thing I think that's it really important. I mean, obviously, you know, Kim was a fantastic guitar player, amazing guitar player, one of the best, and a great songwriter. But I think another huge talent he had
Right.
is he knew how to surround himself with talent. Like he knew how to surround himself with the best, you know, the best musicians, you know, like yourselves and you know, the past 50 plus people that have played in the band over the years. He always had a good ear for like, okay, this person, I need this person. And I know sometimes personalities didn't work out. You know, I've heard the Bill Bruford story of, you know, where he wouldn't do what he was told. So he played what, four gigs and out, you know.
He said he couldn't boogie.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't boogie.
Yeah. That's
He's such a talented drummer. You know, he's like one of the best drummers out there, I think. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when he heard Carl Palmer, and he was, I don't know what band he was, maybe Spencer. I can't remember what band he was with. But Kim said, "Oh my God, I'm listening to this guy before we go on, and he's got this monster groove." And he goes, he was just like incredible. And then, you know, then you listen to him in Emerson Lake and Palmer, and it's like, you know, he's like, you know, he's another guy. He's one of those great drummers. You know, he probably can do anything. You know.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
funny.
Yeah. Well, Kim had a far reach too. I mean, he was very influential. There's a lot of guitar players, musicians that kind of looked up to Kim as a hero. And some of them were, I mean, the Judas Priest guys, I think, took him out on tour for a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he toured Deep Purple, but he did the first Zeppelin tour.
Oh, cool.
I mean, yeah, he did a lot of really. I remember one time he was they're opening up the doors, and he said there was this guy in the front row, and he had a newspaper over his face, and he goes, you know, he goes like, we're playing loud. I'm going like, what is up? And for some reason he keyed in on this guy. So they get off stage and they go, "Ladies and gentlemen, the doors." And the guy with the newspaper takes the newspaper off, jumps on stage. It's Morrison.
Oh wow!
You know, he's got these stories. You go like, really? You know,
that's insane. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. That's great.
Yeah. Well, back then, you know, these guys were making the rules back then. You know, you got to think about what was going on with even the Beatles. When you think about what they had done, and the Stones, all those groups, they're making this stuff up. You know, there was no blueprint. And some of them were just normal guys, young men that, you know, I'm in a band, you know.
Yeah.
They had different, you know, they didn't like today someone becomes an influencer for doing nothing. These guys actually had talent.
Right.
But they weren't, you know, they were just going, this is what I do, you know.
Yeah. And it's
another thing, Kim, is he's a very good artist. He's done some pretty cool artwork.
Oh,
that
cool.
you can look up on the
Yeah, you
website.
can. Yeah, he's got some artwork on the website.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll take a look at that.
I would
Yeah,
encourage all the listeners to check it out. Yeah,
yeah, very
yeah,
cool.
great art. Yeah.
Um, I don't want to keep you all day, but I was curious about so in being in a band that has this longevity, you know, this you know, and this and the fact that Kim was such a prolific writer, I was curious about in terms of live shows. I mean, apart from, you know, whatever album you're promoting, you know, the new album, if you're promoting a new album, you know, obviously you're going to play songs from that. What is that process like, deciding on what to play when you guys tour? I mean, there's so much music. I mean, literally hundreds of songs.
Yeah,
Jeez, you know, it's got to be, you know, are there, I mean, and there's fan favorites, of course, that you kind of have to play, I would imagine,
right.
but is it, and are there, sorry, this is kind of a loaded question, I guess. Are there also particular songs that you really love to play live? Like, oh, we've got to do this song. I really like playing this song live.
Well,
Well,
he really played for the audience. So there were certain songs he would do, like Hellbound Train,
Hmm.
you know, Tell Mama. There was Poor Girl. There was a whole bunch of songs that he felt people came out to see this. So he would do that. He would do new stuff, you know, off the record, because, you know, that's why you're touring. That's your music store now, is your stage, or your record store. And then he would just pick stuff. So it could change radically. I mean, every show could be different. And sometimes he just would do the same. I remember one time we were playing, I think it was in Memphis, and he never played
that's
electric
right.
guitar.
Yeah,
He
he
just played
never picked
acoustic.
up the
He
electric the
played
whole
acoustic.
night. Mhm.
And
Oh,
people
wow.
were going, "Where's the flying V? Where's your Paul?" And they were on stage, but he just wanted to do something, you know. And he said,
Hmm.
that's the good thing about being your own boss and having your own band and having your career. You can go, "Hey, tonight I'm doing this," you know.
Yeah.
And he
Well,
would
I mean,
experiment a lot. You know, there was definitely experimenting going on.
Yeah.
but
You
I
know,
think, I mean, Kim did follow a little bit of a formula.
yeah,
He would always throw in, we, you know, a few of the, you know, like Poor Girl, Street Corner Talking, I'm Tired. He
right.
would throw in some of the older stuff. We did a medley for a while. Do you remember, Pat, where we
Yeah,
would do a
yeah.
medley of the older stuff? But then he would introduce them to the newer stuff as well. So yeah, I mean, he understood that there were some songs he had to play. I remember the one that I heard the most if we didn't play it was Tell Mama. You know,
Yeah.
people would say, I came here to hear Tell Mama, you know. So
But he's got so much, like you said, Victor, he's got so much material,
Yeah.
you know, and we changed things up a lot. And then we came out with all these records, and, you know, people wanted to hear stuff off that. The Witchy Feeling record, we actually learned that at sound check. And on the gig, we would go, "Okay, tonight we're going to play this." And he go, you know, he wanted to get the audience's opinion. Sometimes he go, "What do you think of this song? It's a new song." You know, we
Wow.
did. And, you know, that's how we picked some of the songs for the record, actually, for the
Wow.
Witchy Feeling album.
I mean, I
yeah.
guess it's interesting, you know, Garnet, you mentioned, you know, the audience sometimes getting upset if you don't play a certain song, you know, and I guess, you know, bands that, especially bands that have longevity, have been around for a long time, you know, and you have certain songs that are your favorites, and, you know, bands you see more than once over the years, you know, and I have my favorites, and yeah, there's always songs I kind of wish they would play, and I know sometimes they're not going to be able to do that. So sometimes just because of, you know, the difficulty of playing it live or whatnot. But I've always found it interesting when people are upset, like physically upset, that, yeah, because for me
Yeah.
it's just that gift of the live. I mean, and especially with Kim, I mean, he could have played, you know, the theme song to the Flintstones and I would have been all over it, you know. I mean, just to listen to his guitar tone, like,
Yeah.
it, for me, it didn't really even matter what song he's playing. It's just I just like to watch him play, because
Well,
yeah,
that's
it's
kind
such
of
an amazing tone.
that's a good point. I mean, on the new record, I was listening to it the other day actually in the new recording, and there is some different tones that he throws in there. It's kind of interesting. You know, Texas Love is very raw
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
song, you know, and the tone is just wide open. The amp is screaming loud, you know. And but then there's a lot of textured songs as well, So
I found a version of Shockwave we did, and
oh yeah,
it's like metal. I mean, it was like I couldn't believe I wish we had put that out. That was off the Voodoo Moon record, but I just by accident found that recently. I was like, holy crap, that was so in your face. The drumming you were doing that was really good. I mean, it was like Lars was playing drums.
Wow.
You know, it was like I was going like, and I remember going to Kim, we got to do that. He goes, oh my God, we can. He goes, it's like our audience would, it's something. I don't know if they would expect that from us. And I'm going like, oh yeah. I go, this is like, I really like the way we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would do songs like in 20 different keys, every different, Latin to whatever, swing to rock to whatever, come up with a groove.
Nice.
Remember one time he goes here, don't play the first thing that comes to your head. I looked at him, I said, what? What did you say? Don't play the first thing. We were jamming. It was in Santa Cruz that time. I remember that too. Don't play the first thing that comes. I looked at him and go like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what does that mean exactly? Then later on he goes, yeah, that was, he goes, you know what I mean though. I go, no, I don't know what you mean. So I got to think of something, then think of something again and play that one. Is that what you want me to do?
Well, getting back to this new record, and we're talking about version, I do want to bring up, we talked about it before, but Pat and I had a good time with California Days Gone By because the demo that he sent us, the lyrics were about, it was kind of autobiographical. It was about Kim hanging out with the band in California, in the 60s.
With Janis Joplin.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but the demo had kind of a country feel. It didn't really match the lyric
at all.
So
it was funny.
So we, Pat, after some discussion, Pat and I were able to, we just sort of messed around with grooves. We just kept playing grooves, and Ron, the engineer, had his finger on the record button the whole time. And sometimes Ron would stop and say, "No, Garnet, too much cymbals. We can't do that." So we'd have to change things around. But we eventually landed on a groove that we thought would match the lyric a little better. And Kim let us get away with that one. That was good. So, nice. And he liked it. So yeah.
No, you did. He told me, he goes, wow, he goes, California Days, that group that was really good. And I go, yeah, we completely changed it. And he didn't realize it. He goes, really? And I go, yeah, listen to the demo.
Nice.
He was great though. He really validated me and Garnet. I'll speak for Garnet on this, validated our careers and what we were always aspiring to do, by being able to tour all over and putting out records that, that people wanted to purchase,
Yeah.
It was, you put the music out for the people. That's what you're doing it for. I mean, it just, there's so many good memories. There was so much, we took people away for an hour and a half where they could reminisce about being in their teens, or, because that crowd would come out and it brought them back to when they were younger, and why they come out to see the band still, why they came out to see the band still. It's like a release, just like you, when you go see a band, you want to see Victor, and you see him like 20 years later, you go, wow, it's great. These guys are still doing this and they still got it. And they're, and I remember when I was with my friend Billy and we went and saw these guys, and, we were in high school or whatever, it's just, that's what it's all about, for us as artists. I think, it's we're communicating to people, and hopefully we're bringing them some joy.
Yeah, definitely. And
the release.
The thing too is, I think, that, right up until the end, Kim was cooking. That guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch those live videos, from 2019, 2020, the first of 2020, and, you put that against, old footage of him playing when he was a younger man, and he still smokes. I mean,
I know.
tears it up on
There
the
was
guitar.
nights he was amazing. I mean, there were some nights I wish there were. I don't see the videos up. There was nights he was playing. He was on fire. I mean, he was all over the stage. I'm looking, I go, this guy's in his 70s.
Yeah.
I don't see young bands doing this. It's like I was like really impressed with him, and he pushed us. When you see this guy that's in this, once again, he's a 7-year-old man plus, over, and he's doing that. It just makes you go like, well, it's game time. Let's it's kick it up.
Yeah, definitely.
We never dialed it in. I mean, we never dialed it in. We never wrote it in. When we were there on stage every night, we always gave the best show we could give.
Right.
And we didn't take it for granted that there was people there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
anyway,
and important. I think that's really important. For
it is important. It is important.
Yeah, that's great.
You want to.
So Garnet and Pat, this has been an absolute pleasure and an honor, truly, to chat with you today.
Oh, thanks.
So those watching, the description below the video, there are links to Savoy Brown's Facebook page as well as their webpage. The new album, Blues All Around, comes out February 17th. You need to own this album. It is fantastic. It's the final Savoy Brown album. And it's it's really I think a tribute to the legacy of Kim to hear this great music. I strongly suggest you go and pick that up when it comes out next week. It's such a phenomenal album, and also the whole back catalog of 40+ albums. If you don't own any, you should go check out Savoy Brown if you're not familiar with Savoy Brown. One of the premier blues rock bands of our time. Right up there with Led Zeppelin and Cream and all those great bands from that era, John Mayall and all of that.
Yardbirds.
Yardbirds. Yeah, such great music. So gentlemen, thank you so very much. This was fantastic.
Thank you
so much, Victor.
Appreciate your time, Victor. Yep.
Yeah.